Welcome to day 6 of the Fearless 30 challenge. This day is all about my biggest fear. And we get to go into this, and I don't get to play a victim or anything. It's sharing from this empowered vulnerability, from this different energetic underlying frequency of this is not poor me, this is where I've been, this is what I've experienced on the other side, and maybe share some things that would be useful for one other person out there. And if it is, then it was worth it. And before I go into this, I want to let go of any need, any feeling of any need, or any feeling of any pressure to portray myself as something other than I am, to put up this caricature of perfection, and to deny the fact that I am so human, and we are so human, and we get to dance with fear in this life. And it's a real thing. It's so real. It's so real. And I know that there are like all these cute acronyms of like fear is false evidence appearing real. That's maybe empowering for a moment. But there's a feeling of fear that is very real. And it's stopped me from doing so many things in my life. And I'm excited to have a new relationship with it, and also to accelerate that relationship with others, and to really make it more accessible to do the courageous thing. So just letting go of any other pressure of feeling like I need to be perfect on this camera, and just allowing myself to be myself, and giving myself that permission that maybe liberates one other person to be a little bit more themselves. If I stutter, if I mix up my words, this is the first take. I'm going to still send it anyways. And maybe you're seeing what I'm getting at, but one of my biggest fears was doing this, was being seen, was being heard, was putting myself out there, both artistically and professionally. And it actually hit me this past weekend because I got invited to this little jam session, and I brought a guitar, and I brought some other instruments that other people could have, and we could all kind of, jam low key, no pressure. And I pull up there, and there's this line of cars. I'm like, oh, okay, what did I just get myself into? And it turns out there was a barn party, and a nice little gathering. And I remember as I was sitting there, the sun was setting. It was like a spotlight was on my eyes, and you can't really see the audience. And I was sitting there, and the spotlight was coming in, and I was sitting next to Shannon, who just released Body and Soul. And without going too much into that, I remembered sharing with her not too long ago that one of my biggest fears was sitting in front of people with just an acoustic guitar. For my entire life, almost, or as long as I've played guitar. And I'm just going to use this one example, but it shows up in so many different places. But with the guitar, with the being seen and heard and performing, and allowing fear to completely prevent me from doing that for years. Low-key, now I see that as probably being the reason why I've become a pretty awesome producer, is because I hid behind production and studio magic and my ability to edit and make things perfect. And I found that easier than sitting in front of, even just friends with a guitar and singing. So I had this realization that, wow, I shared that my biggest fear was sitting in front of people with a guitar, and here I am, I came here, and I ended up to be here, and I got everyone singing, and there was no rehearsal, and normally I never would have been able to do that. But this dance with fear has really shifted things with me, and this ability to come into something with high intention and no expectation. Like, hey, I'm not attached to how other people receive this. I know myself. I trust myself. I stand in who I am, and I'm going to show up, and I get to choose how I show up. And I don't get to choose, let's say in this situation, I don't get to choose to show up as a more rehearsed practiced, cohesive, musical unit with the people that I'm playing with. That's not on the table. So my options are, what is the energy that I get to show up with? I get to show up with joy, enthusiasm, love, like this ability to go, okay, let's see what happens here. Let's play, let's dance, let's make something beautiful. And it's amazing because that, I believe, energy is, everything is kind of infectious. It's not just COVID. It's like your mood, your vibe, your mindset, your calm is contagious. And by being that, you get other people singing, you get other people expressing themselves, you get other people doing something that they may not have done because of fear otherwise. And I kind of started off the video in this way as well, if you noticed. I was like, whoa, I'm just letting go of anything that is not me. Any pressure, any expectation of how this is received, for this entire 30-day challenge, because that's too much for me to bear, of the pressure of how other people, I'm not responsible for other people's perceptions or experience of them watching me, being me. I'm not responsible for it. And I trust that if I just show up and be myself and sing and speak courageously and authentically, that the right people will lean in. And the other ones will see themselves to the door. And I just have this immense amount of trust that carries across in doing these weird things like videos. When I began doing videos, I remember I did my first group program in 2019. The amount of time it took me to shoot a video was mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing, a little embarrassing. I would spend a day trying to create something that was a little bit more perfect, that was a little bit more dialed, that was a little bit more clear, that was a little bit more something and a little less me. And learning to accept exactly where I am and show up with that trust of, hey, this is where I am. And maybe it's not good enough yet, but this is where I am. And this fear of being seen, there's so much underneath it. Because it's not just the fear, like if I were to break that down, that situation down, let's say sitting around a campfire, love campfires, with friends, also love friends, holding a guitar, also love guitars, singing, I love the feeling of it when it feels good. But doing all of them together turned out to be my biggest fear. And it was because of the fears underneath. It wasn't necessarily the fear of holding a guitar or being by a fire or being with friends or being with strangers or even singing. It was the fear of, what if I sing and hit a wrong note, and will they judge me? Oh, so the fear of judgment. Okay. So the shame of not being perfect, whatever that is, of holding myself to an unmet standard, of being somewhere other than I am. I don't sound like Jimi Hendrix or John Mayer. Yeah, because I'm not them. So all I can do is be as much me as possible. The fear of rejection, of me not being, fear of not being good enough. Yeah. The fear of me expressing who I really am and it not being good enough. And I get rejected by the people that I crave community from and safety from and companionship and friendship. I get somewhere in that subconscious is I get cast out of the tribe. Cast out of the tribe for us means death. Whew. And it's not just me, because I share these things because they're rather universal. And whether it's artistically expressing yourself or putting yourself out there professionally in a new way, whether it's in videos or in-person facilitation, leading your first retreat or creating your first course or or taking your empire that you've built all around the world and doing that thing that you've had on the back burner. This is the stuff that I love working with people with, because sometimes people can have what looks like complete success. They've been pretty successful at building some things that other people from the outside are like, ooh, that's cool, you're successful. But internally, when they open up, they don't feel success because they're actually not leaning into the fear of pursuing what's most meaningful to them. And I want you to let that land and consider what that is for you. The more we get underneath these fears and what is it really that we're scared of, the more we're able to be with those things and go, oh, it is okay that someone doesn't accept me because I accept me. It is okay that I may not be competent enough yet because my commitment will create the competence. It's okay if someone doesn't like what I'm all about because I like what I'm about. And it's okay if someone judges me for leading a different life because I lead a life that is true to me. So any outside opinions, projections, judgments, I'm okay with. I'm okay with. And I realize that this process and having these safe spaces with these scenarios that are like sandboxes where you can safely go play and express and create that match my current capacity have been so powerful. And having those situations created by others really skilled facilitators and mentors and coaches, and also by me learning how to create those experiences for myself. What is the sandbox version of this that I get to go play, that's a low stakes situation where I get to go play, create competence and courage. And I get to go practice courage. You know, if me stuttering in my words just there, I probably would have gotten seized up when I started, and I probably would have pressed stop, and then I would have felt shame, and there would have been blood rush to my face, and I would have felt, fuck, I did 10 minutes and I messed it up because but coming from this place of high intention, low attachment is so game changer. And there are so many fears that we can face, whether it be fear of success, fear of failure, fear of being painfully average and so wildly human, that we do make mistakes, that we are incompetent for most things, you know? Like, it's hard to be a master at everything. Like, I don't even know that that's possible. I don't quite believe anyone that claims to be. So, I'm gonna leave it there with my biggest fear and how I move through that. And I think that there are some lessons, if you listen to some of the things underlying what I'm saying, that you could take out into your own life and just be a little bit more of where fear is showing up, whether it's, you know, the high performance mask of fear, which we call perfectionism, or any of these kinds of things. Like, just notice where fear is showing up and get really curious about what's underneath it. Okay, yeah, why? Oh, what is that really trying to show me? What is that really trying to show me? If they did hate it, if I crashed and burned, if I forgot the lyrics, would I lose trust in myself? If I got up on stage and forgot my next bullet point, would I be able to have the real-time self-compassion to go, hey guys, one moment, let me tune in while I get the next point. Have you ever been on stage and forgotten something? You know, so it's that next level of trust. And from that trust, we can be so much more courageous, and fear doesn't have a grip on us so much more. And maybe, just maybe, you end up sitting in a chair impromptu with the sun in your eyes, doing the thing that you said not too long ago was your greatest fear, and not being gripped by fear, but meeting the moment I'll see you tomorrow. Much love.